Vishwa, it's an online platform for social champions, for change makers, everyday change makers that we see around us, who have put decades of work, of their lifetime, their earnings, into making a difference, to serve others, and to make our world into a better place.
Good morning and welcome to WishwaTalk. My name is Trishant. Thank you all for attending today's event. For those of you who have attended a WishwaTalk before, a warm welcome back. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, here's a little bit about us. WishwaTalks is a space to expand the horizons of your mind. Every webinar, we call experts from different domains to discuss and examine opinions, issues, problems, and perspectives. Each webinar is an interactive session where we all walk away with more respect for each other and a deeper understanding of the topic at hand. If you miss a session, please visit our website or YouTube channel for a full library of past Vishwa Talks on interesting topics. Today on Vishwa Talks, our speaker is Mr. Suhrd Joshi from Project Retrofit, and he will lead us through the session in just a few moments. Suhrd is a professional user experience designer and a self-taught urban designer, amongst many other things. Suhrd is upgrading his neighborhood in his hometown of Vadodara since the last 7 years through a unique grassroots initiative called Retrofit. He advocates for citizens to take matters into their own hands, literally by championing a handmade democratic way of building beautiful streets, lush with biodiversity, food, play, rest, amenities, artwork, and a lot more. He talks about how to build street smarts and not smart streets. Before we get started, I would like to inform our audience that our speaker will be taking the questions after the main talk. So please leave your questions in the chat or use the raise hand option and we will allow you to ask your questions in person. I request everyone to turn on your webcams while asking the question and during the interactive activities. Now, without further ado, I invite our speaker to begin today's Vishwa Talk.
Thank you, Trishant.
Good morning.
So, hi, good morning to everyone, and I'm delighted to be here. And thank you to WishwaTalks for having me here as well. So let's get right into it. The topic of my talk today is, as was communicated earlier, retrofitting urban spaces to create an ecological balance. And Trishant gave a wonderful introduction, so I don't think I can do better. But just to add a bit more to it, so I am somebody who has been almost like an activist of sorts for the past 7 years. And basically, yes, I am a designer, but I am not an urban designer, or at least, as Trishant said, I have taught myself urban design. I have not gone through a curriculum or a course, so I don't have a certification per se. So there's a small disclaimer right there. So but that is actually the crux of my talk today. That whatever I'll be showing you is something that you can do yourself. And I really want to emphasize that point, that you don't need architects or certified famous urban designers to improve the world around you. So with that being said, let's focus on the words in the title: retrofitting urban spaces. So to create ecological balance. So many keywords there, right? And you could delve a lot into each of those words. What does it mean to retrofit? Why urban spaces? And what exactly is an ecological balance? And more pertinently, is ecological balance the only thing that we should try to do? And how to achieve that? Is a direct method going to help you achieve an ecological balance, or are there indirect methods as well that can help you achieve your objectives? So yeah, let's start with the first. Let's start with the thing called as urban spaces. Why urban spaces? So let us sort of zoom out and take a moment to understand where we are at in this journey of civilization or the Indian nation. Right now, it's the year 2023, and we are at an inflection point almost. So we are right now the most populous nation on planet Earth. 1/6 of the world is us, India. The world's second largest human migration ever is taking place right now in an invisible fashion. And that migration is basically the transition from a rural civilization to an urban civilization. And it happens like almost once in entire history of mankind, possibly. So China went through it, and now the second largest India is going through it. But again, let's focus on the word urban. India, if you look at prehistoric times, was actually an urban civilization. Way before the Vedic era, we had the mighty Indus Valley or the Harappan civilization. And they were the first urbanists in the world. They had fantastically designed and planned cities, which had sewage systems, which had benches, which had standardization, which had, canopy shade trees to assist the pedestrians. So India is not new to urbanism, is what I'm trying to say. But right now, again, coming back to the present, where are we at? We were promised 100 smart cities. And I'm sure a lot of all those who have joined are from various corners of India. So I don't think I need to say it. You should look at your own city, and probably it's a rhetorical question, but is your city smart? Since the mission was announced in 2014, it's been almost 10 years. Is your city smart? So like maybe 1/7 of your life has gone by. Is your city smart? How long are you prepared to wait? What is the definition of smart for that matter? At the same time, where is, like, do you even know how many cities are there in India? So I don't think we have that much time to like conduct a poll question or something, but there are 4,300 cities in India by official government definition, with population of over 1 lakh. There are possibly 5 lakh, 6 lakh villages on top of it. So we have to ask ourselves, we want to be like whatever, we want to be a developed nation. So where do we, in what lifetime do we achieve it? And what is the budget? What is the timeline and what is the budget for it? So what is happening right now? If we again take just a scanning look at it, what is happening right now is there are 30 riverfront projects going on, massive riverfront projects. There are a lot of new cities being built, and almost all of them have been absolute failures. And I don't want to mince any words here. You take a look at Amravati, you take a look at Lavasa, you take a look at Dholera, you take a look at possibly Gift City, Gandhinagar, even to that matter, Chandigarh, which is as such said to be a very planned city, but is it a Mumbai? Is it a Pune? Is it a Pimpri Chinchwad? Is it a Hosur, or even a let's say Noida or Gurgaon? So I want to like give you a sense that this is the level of the problem, that where you stay in your residential public street, not a gated society, but your residential public street, are you getting all the services that say an Amsterdam or a Copenhagen or a Brussels would have? Do you have dustbins on your street? Do you have benches? Do you have a lot of the things that make a beautiful city to live in? And again, this is possibly the perfect time to have this talk, because what are we noticing right now? Delhi is completely flooded. The Yamuna has found its natural course next to the Red Fort right now. Last year, Pakistan, 1/3 of Pakistan, which was almost, we considered them as part of our civilization only. So 1/3 of it was submerged, $30 billion of loss for them. So where are we headed? Where are we headed? Bangladesh is preparing itself to be drowned in the next 3 decades. Same is probably on the cards for Mumbai, with cyclones, 3-4 cyclones hitting every summer. So with that being said, I'd like to now quickly just tell you what I've been up to and talk a little bit of my personal journey. But it was important to give you this macro picture as well, because right now we feel helpless. Okay, we feel absolutely panicked, anxious, stressed. We are worried about, I'm no longer that young, but we are worried about the Gen Z, like the future generations that are going to come. And what are we leaving them behind with? Supply side inflation due to climate crisis, more pandemics. What are we leaving them with? Billions of dollars of damage due to flooded infrastructure and like loss in real estate value and all those things. So yeah, let me now quickly, since we have a shortage of time, I'd like to just quickly share my screen and give you a contrast. So I currently stay in Pune and I've been living here for 7 years. I'd like to give you a contrast, and that should maybe give you a sense of what my personal journey has been like in the past 7 to 10 years. So this is a famous road in Pune called Jangli Maharaj Road. And this is going to be an interesting Zoom talk. But what you're seeing here is basically a street view, an interactive street view of what Pune is like. So I don't like to call myself a person from a small town, like a small town boy. छोटे छोटे शहरों से खाली बोर दोपहरों से हम, but I was the sort of person जो to pursue education झोला उठा के चले पुणे की तरफ. And then when I arrived in Pune at the age of 19, I'm currently 30 now. For the first time, I felt like not littering the streets. For the first time, I just didn't casually throw a lace ka wrapper on the street. And I'd like, perhaps what I'm showing you right now will give you a sense why I felt that way. And immediately upon coming to Pune, I, like literally the first week in Pune, first week of my college, I knew there was something different about this place. I couldn't quite put a finger on it. That what is it so different over here? But over time, as I went through my design education and I guess I became a bit mature, I started realizing things, and obviously started watching TED Talks and YouTube videos and all those things. So what are you seeing here? You're seeing almost 100-year-old trees here. It's a mind-blowing canopy. Okay, you're seeing complete continuous footpath on the side, which is like uninterrupted and wheelchair friendly. Within the footpath, there are like additional rows of greenery. Like there are bioswales to capture rainwater, and it's just like if you are over here, like if you are at a dhaba versus a 5-star hotel, the same person talks differently, walks differently, dresses differently. I'm here in a Zoom call, I'm wearing this shirt because it's kind of formal, right? So the same person behaves differently in different settings. And this is all common sense. I hope there's no rocket science over here. So what is going on here? Is harping on ecology, and when we say ecology, maybe another word for it could be environment. But is environment just trees and bees, or is environment something else? Is environment also the condition of your footpaths, the condition of your roads, the civic amenities that are provided? How walkable is your neighborhood? Or is it just a 12-lane highway where SUVs and pollution and noise and elevated flyovers are going? So what I really want to emphasize here is sometimes, in fact, often, an indirect approach is going to lead you to an ecological zenith. So through the last 7 years, I have seen a lot of people who focus on Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and kind of, it's very easy to do. It's in terms of it's nothing political. There's nothing. Who's going to oppose the fact that we want clean streets? Nobody, right? But you can clean your streets every day. You can go pick up somebody else's cigarette butts and Vimal packets and whatnot. But it's going to come there the next week back. And are you going to go and clean it again? And what I really want to point out is behavioral change happens through obviously education, and we are doing plenty of that. We have been taught about swachhata and water conservation and greenery in our school, even in our college. Our newspapers, our Instagrams are flooded with it. But still, why are we facing the same issues? So behavioral change happens through social aspects, is what I would say. If your street looks slightly designed and slightly better, automatically you incentivize somebody to behave better, is what I'm trying to point out. And obviously infrastructure matters. And by infrastructure, I don't mean like imagine a giant flyover which cutting through this. That's not great, right? To have the feel of a city. But by infrastructure, I mean things like a dustbin, or just next to the dustbin, you can see, ability to sit, like there are benches and there are signboards, and even the nature of the shops, how far away are the shops from the footpath, that itself makes a huge difference. So I think I've shown enough of that street. Now let me show you where I come from. This is where I'm currently staying. Let me show you now quickly where I come from. This is Baroda, okay, also known as Vadodara. Now, Gujarat is one of the richest and often touted as one of the most developed states, okay? And Baroda is the cultural capital, just like Pune is the cultural and educational capital of Maharashtra. Baroda is the cultural and educational capital of Gujarat. I would say was. I think Baroda has completely lost its way, and it has just underperformed and not lived up to its potential. Had a few, or rather a lot of small decisions gone correctly, Baroda would right now have a population of 50 lakh, but it's right now just having a population of 21 lakh. And it is a stagnant, almost a boring city. And that is the journey I went through, that every time I came to Pune, it was so lively. Pedestrians would throng the streets, the commerce, everything was just, it was a happening city. And that is why people are thronging to places like Bangalore, Mumbai, Pune. But what is happening to all the tier 2, tier 3 cities where most of us come from? It's a exodus that is happening. There are people leaving for USA, Canada, Australia, but even people just migrating to bigger cities. And with that, there's a flight of wealth, there's a flight of talent, and a flight of education and consciousness as well. So the people, the rich, educated people who otherwise would have developed the city or would have educated their neighborhood or tried to improve the neighborhood, I saw my friends leaving, my school friends just leaving Baroda. Trishant left Baroda to go to Hyderabad, the moderator. So I'll show you my home street. This is what my home street looks like. This is what my home street looks like. Now, granted, some aspects of it are completely, not completely, but can be attributed to geography. But there's a lot of sociology and culture involved here as well. And I really want to emphasize that it is not that Baroda cannot grow trees. It is not that there are no native trees in that can grow in Gujarat's arid conditions and whatever. Okay. In fact, in a place where there is a lack of certain things, the population there should try double hard, triple hard to catch up. Okay. But then what I saw happening over 4 or 5 years until I finally graduated from college as a user experience designer, I saw just, so where we are right now, there is only one species of bird that can be ever seen. And you are seeing them right now on your screen. Just pigeons. Just pigeons. And I really felt like after graduating, when I was about to take my job, why should I even return? Why should I return back to this place where nothing happens, where there's no like interesting streets, or there's no serendipity of bumping into somebody, or whatever. No fancy restaurants are there, themed cafes, boutique cafes and things like that. Why should I even return? Why not just stay in Pune? So I decided upon graduating in 2016 that if I'm to come back to Baroda, I'm going to change this my own home neighborhood. And I will not rest until that happens. Because in summer, it is touching 48, 49 degrees Celsius here. And one should just extrapolate what will happen 10 years down the line. So again, if you look at this street, it's just a sea of asphalt that I see. From horizon to horizon, it's just a lot of asphalt. There are like 6-lane roads and there's hardly any footpath to speak of. One species of bird, no greenery. And, you know, I felt this sense of dysphoria that I felt ripped out and I didn't know where I even belong. Do I belong in Pune or do I belong in Baroda? What do I do? So I decided to put my talents to some use. And again, I am not an architect, not an urban designer. And I started to question, like, where are we going wrong? Why are all these architects, urban designers not doing anything? Where is the municipality? You know? And why do they not even have their finances in check? Why do they not have the money to do all this? What is going wrong? What is wrong with the population? That the most obvious things are not happening. So it's just, and you know, this neighborhood of mine has been flooded multiple times. Each year it rains like anything. And it completely gets flooded because there's like, where is the open soil? Where is the open soil? Now there are stormwater drains, but all that the stormwater drains do is just divert the water downstream, and the villages downstream then completely flood. So now I'll take you through the street I've been retrofitting, and I call this Adhikar Path. And over time, what happened was that I started with nothing. I didn't know. I had never touched even a bamboo stick before. I had never played. I was a digital designer. So it was a long, arduous journey for me. But what I'm trying to say is if I could learn and if I could manage to figure things out on my own, each and every person in this country of 143 crore people can, be it a child, be it an elderly, man, woman, transgender, possibly even the disabled and the illiterate. So now suddenly, as you see, as you enter this street, there are more trees, but it wasn't always so. This street was completely barren when I began in 2016. The center divider was completely barren. The soil was white in color. There were twisters of sand whenever the wind blew. And as I said, one species of bird, pigeon, that's it. But now this is kind of what it looks like. It's a work in progress. And we started doing a lot of things. So we started with the most basic thing, that what is the most uncontroversial thing that nobody would mind. And I started targeting places which I knew nobody would have a problem with, because the center divider is nobody's property. And through this all, I had this huge sense of, hey, am I breaking the law? You know, I was in that condition, that am I breaking the law by planting a tree? Because we are all grown up in this very regimented system where we feel that we have to ask permission for every single thing. But the more I started to question, it was like, hey, people don't take permission to urinate on the street or spit pan on the street. Shadi ka barat nikalta hai, political rallies or whatever, like 100 things happen. Cattle is let loose on the street, people throw litter on the street. So many things happen without permission. So what's the problem if I start planting something or painting something? So I sort of built my own courage that way, and obviously I had a help of friends like Trishant and many others who completely aided me in the journey. So what I'll try to show you here is a shop shutter that we painted. And what I really wanted was just a bit of Pune in my Baroda street. I wanted people to visit this street. I want this to become the hangout spot. And now I want this to become the best street in Gujarat. That is my ambition right now. And then slowly, as you start learning more, you start developing confidence, you start thinking of the higher objectives. And it's really important, I feel, to go through this journey, because until we know how to or feel confident to even dig up one paver block, how are we going to stop a giant flyover coming on Marine Drive? What hope do we have? So the more I learned, I started developing this philosophy, and that philosophy is now something I call as anarchist urbanism. And I have different names for it. So it in Hindi, you could call it Swarajyavadi Shahrikaran. Or one more word for it, which you'll see as I show you. I call it Khadi urbanism. And it's very deliberately named so, because I'll try to tell you why. And maybe before I try to tell you why, you can sort of try to guess why I would call it Khadi urbanism. So this is literally all the plants we have planted, or if the VMC planted, they planted.
Hello, Suhrd. Yeah. Kindly be patient. There's some technical difficulty from the speaker side. We'll just resume in a minute.
Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Sorry. I think I lost my net connection. I'll just share my screen again. Sorry for the brief interruption.
Sure.
So yeah. So yeah, I was talking about, I think, Khadi urbanism, right? Yeah, can you just remind me where I was? I lost my track. Sorry.
Yes, you asked us to figure out maybe why you named the moment Khadi urbanism.
Yeah, okay. So I was saying that Pune not because a few councillors decided to make it so. There is this thing called as incremental urbanism, and I want to what do architects do? They, or not every architect, mind you, but a lot of architects, they have this eagle view plan, and they look at the city from above, and that completely rules out, or excludes the agency of the 1 crore people that may be living in, say, Pune, Pimpri Chinchwad, or the 20 lakh people that may be living in Baroda. So it is, great cities are built through an inclusive, democratic, incremental process. Okay, not through some master plan. And just to give you one small example, I told you of all the Indian cities, master planned Indian cities that have completely failed. But this trend has been going on worldwide for decades. You look at Canberra, you look at Islamabad, you look at Brasilia. What do all of them have in common? They are all centrally planned cities, and they have all been abject failures. Abject failures. Like I'll just give you an example. Gandhinagar and Pimpri Chinchwad were both established at the same time in the mid 1960s, 65, 70 years ago or something. Pimpri Chinchwad today has more population than Baroda. Pimpri Chinchwad has a population of 25 lakh. Baroda, which was a princely state and cultural and educational capital with so much already built infrastructure, such a rich legacy, is completely stagnant. Pimpri Chinchwad started as a Sindhi refugee camp from partition era, and Gandhinagar was supposed to be named after a great freedom fighter and the capital of Gujarat. And today the population of Gandhinagar is 1/10 of Pimpri Chinchwad. It is 2.5 lakh. So both cities established at the same time, but see the difference, and that difference is going to widen in the decades to come. So the reason why that has happened is there are some places in India which follow an incremental style of urbanism, and where public investment follows private investment. Private investment, and by private I mean individuals' investment in the street, is absolutely necessary. Whereas in all the failed examples that I mentioned, what has happened is you assume that there's going to be a huge demand. In fact, Dholera, how could I miss out Dholera and GIFT? Complete failures. You assume there's going to be a huge demand. You already assume it's going to be a rockstar city. And so you plan giant streets and you lay out the pipelines and electricity lines and sewage lines, and everything happens pehle se pre-planned. You lay out the neighborhoods and you designate the business area and the residential area and all that. And then what happens is people don't want to come there because it's a ghost town. It's a bhoot bangla. It's a zombie land. It's a graveyard. So when you drive on Baroda streets, the streets feel empty. You know, there's nothing happening on the streets. You're just, Trishant would know what I'm saying. You're just driving around for miles and miles, and there's nothing but roads to look at. There are no, unless you go to the old city area, where things were walkable and more compact and whatever, everything else is just sprawling suburban nightmare, if I were to put it that way. So again, I am trying to change that, and I want to again emphasize that all of you can do that, because I'm pretty sure these problems exist in all the cities that you have ever visited or stayed in. So now if you suddenly, just a second. Now, if you suddenly enter this part of the street, suddenly you start noticing there's a bit more density in the greenery. Okay. And suddenly it starts feeling a bit more cozy. You know, there's a lot more shade. In fact, the temperature difference in peak summer on World Environment Day, June 5, is from the circle I was earlier at, which is just 100 meters behind, to this place. It's 15 degrees Celsius. 15. My goal was 5 degrees Celsius. It is 15 degrees Celsius. And now the ecological aspect comes here. It's almost almost like an afterthought. Sure, you should ensure biodiversity and native trees and all those things. But I also want to point out that do not let great become the enemy of good enough. Okay. Because in a place where people have never seen trees their entire life, where people are cutting trees because they are afraid, મારા છોકરા પર પડી, મારા દીકરા પર ઝાડ પડી જશે, મારા SUV ને ડેમેજ થશે તો ડેમેજ ના પૈસા તમે આપશો. It's like they are afraid of their SUV is getting damaged, or it's like almost a paranoia that kids will get killed because branches will fall or whatever. It's like a once in a blue moon, once in a 100-year event, but they are afraid of that, you know. And I just showed you Pune's example. That wasn't just one street. All of Pune is like that. And not just Pune. Again, part of it is geological, but a lot of it is socio-cultural. You bring a Keralite, and there are a lot of Malayali people living in Baroda. Look at their bungalows. Their courtyards will be a full jungle. Okay. Kerala, Andhra, Telangana, Karnataka, Goa, Maharashtra, but somewhere north of Maharashtra, partly geological, but a lot of it socio-cultural. Madhya Pradesh also very forested, but then something happens, Haryana, Gujarat, Punjab, something goes wrong over there. So again, I'll take you to this through this street, and I hope it loads up a bit. And I don't think we have that much time there. How are we on time, Trisha?
We are a little late on time, but we can take the session forward. Let me just tell our audiences about a few things. I'd like to put up a poll question for them to know where they are from, so that we can curate the topics for them better in the future.
Let me know when I should continue. Yeah.
Just a second. So I'd like to request the audience to answer this small poll that has been put up. Is to know you better, is to get you better topics that you are interested in. While you do that, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Wishwa and what we do. We are an online platform for change makers and social champions. It's a crowdfunding and crowdsourcing platform that is aimed at helping everyone and find the support they need in their efforts to fulfill their dreams for themselves and for others, everyone around them, and in the process, make the world a better place. We have plenty of fundraisers going on, which cater to other NGOs that are working towards the 6 different causes we support. And you can find the links in the chat. We have an Annadanam campaign going on, which caters to migrants who are here for treatments, for cheaper treatments in Hyderabad, and a lot of them are, living beside the hospitals, on the streets, on the footpaths and everything. And every week we distribute food to them. Thanks to our participants and audiences, a lot of them have been kind to donate and helping us in this mission to fight malnutrition and hunger. We've had Suhrd, I'd like to bring you on to continue with the session. I will interrupt you again at about 12 o'clock, and then we can take the session forward after that if the participants are willing to, if the audiences are ready with us. We'd like to extend the session beyond 12 too, if you don't mind.
I think my talk will be done by 11:50 or so.
Sure.
Okay, so where was I? So yeah, I mean, just you saw 100 meters behind that whole circle, and literally the whole city, the whole neighborhood is like that. Just a sea of asphalt and nothing. There's no charm. There's nothing remarkable. You don't even feel like inviting ki aao mera mohalla dekho. there's no quality of that sort. But suddenly, if you come, as I was saying, I'll just take you a little behind. So you can see the difference. I mean, this is actually the improved street, but this is actually what goes on. That the municipality keeps cutting the tree and they butcher the trees like anything. They don't just trim the trees. They butcher the trees. And so I am also like I know Gujarati. I'm born and brought up in Gujarati, so I don't want to hate on Gujarat, but I'm pretty sure these problems exist in some other places as well. So the idea of a tree is just a 15-20 foot stump, not a giant canopy of this sort. I mean, there are examples, but then it's not there.
Suhrd, could you please share your screen?
Is it not visible? Is my
It's
screen
not visible at the moment. Please could you share?
Just a second. I'll just a second. Oh, so sorry.
Yes.
I didn't know the screen share. So I was saying the idea of like these problems exist in a lot of places, but the municipality is actually the enemy. The people in charge are actually the enemy. You know, they are the ones who are coming and butchering the trees which they themselves have planted. It's their cages. They are butchering the trees, and the idea is a 20-foot stump or a 15-foot stump. And we have been fighting like hell to stop this from happening. And the trees, there are examples of trees which are giant and large, but those examples are there because somebody has fought to and literally gone to the axe wielder and said, no, you are not going to touch this. And the reasons for cutting trees are absolutely anything. There's an electric line, so don't trim the tree, cut it off. They have grown too much, darkness, bats, monkeys, you name it. It will fall on my child, it will fall on my SUV, kachro thai che, like leaf litter. But the leaf litter is what is enriching your soil. It is what is helping absorb the water. Every inch from wall to wall is paved. Every square inch is paved. So where is the water percolation happening? How will things not flood? So groundwater recharge and flooding are two sides of the same coin. And you know, we could have AI and we could go to the moon in 40 days time, or we should be going to Mars in the future. But what about our planet Earth? And you know, as I was saying, AI is there, genetic editing is there, quantum, whatever is there. This revolution is not going to happen at the click of a button. This revolution can only happen one uprooted paver block at a time and one narrowed street at a time. The more, because when you have carpeted this, like there are streets in Vadodara where there is no footpath and the asphalt is all the way up to the compound wall. Where is the scope to even plant a tree then? You know, a paver block is modular. You can remove a paver block and plant a tree at least, or a shrub or a vine. When there is just asphalt from edge to edge, the municipality is actually the enemy. It is eliminating the chance of even planting a tree. And I was saying the trees are there, sure, but they are somewhere in a ground or they are in a garden. You have to go to a garden. They are not there where it's needed the most, in the center of the street and the side of the street. And when they are there, they are just like stumps. They are not giving the canopy in a place where it's needed the most: Gujarat, Rajasthan, Punjab. So again, if I can just quickly take you through the street, suddenly you see the density of trees and plants and shrubs. Again, this is a banyan tree, 25-year-old banyan tree. This is, it is as old as me, possibly same age as me. This is what the municipality does to it. I could not save this tree, but I saved the next tree. This is also a banyan tree. There is an electric line running, but we told them that no, let the tree grow above the. So what happens is trees bend because it doesn't get sunlight. The house is blocking the sunlight. So the trees bend toward the street. You keep cutting it, the tree will keep bending more. On top of it, you do not leave any root, like any space around the roots. You literally choke it or put a corset or a tight belt on it. So naturally it's going to bend. And because it bends, they feel, oh, it's overgrown or it is a hazard. Let me cut it down. Rather, the tree has a natural ability. You can see there's a bend in the tree right now. And why is the bend happening? Because the tree has found sunlight behind the house as it grows taller. So the tree naturally stabilizes the more deeper its roots grow and the more taller you allow it to grow. But if you keep cutting it, nor are the roots going to grow, and then eventually it's always going to remain like this. But nevertheless, I want you to notice all of this has been done by us in a completely handmade fashion. There is no machinery involved. There is no factory involved. There is no template or software involved. There is no degree or 4-year college course involved. What I mean by Khadi urbanism is, again, you think of the charkha and why that charkha philosophy was propagated. It wasn't just to achieve British independence. It was to achieve Swaraj. It was like self-respect, self-governance, and what shall we say? Self-actualization. That, hey, I have choices and I feel capable to do something with my life. The spiritually starving millions, as Mohandas Gandhi said. The step that you are going to take, think whether it will uplift the last person in line. And what does all this do? It's not just ecology. This is a way to connect with, for the first time in 30 years, know my neighbors. I know my neighbors. I look them in the eye. I'm not avoiding them, hiding from them, avoiding conversations. I look them in the eye. I ask for permissions. And by I mean we, the Retrofit group. We tailor each tree on a house-to-house basis. There is no... So what you are seeing in the central divider is actually the municipality planting 1 million conocarpus trees all over Baroda because they wanted it done. We decided not to cut those trees. We decided, okay, you have done the damage, let it be. Even the conocarpus has some value. But now, in between the conocarpus trees, we are doing a multi-level permaculture sort of plantation, which are, most of it are fruit trees, native fruit trees, flowering trees. And then when it comes to the side of the roads, we go each door to door. And again, it's like like most Gujarati bungalows are completely tiled and paved, and there's a jhula and an SUV parking and a small tulsika plant in the corner. That's a fact. I'm not being... It's not a stereotype, it is a fact. So we have to, like, there are always people who will say कि तुमने ये plant क्यों नहीं लगाया. There are a lot of these ecological PhD people as well who will be like, who will want perfection, but never let perfection get in the way of good enough. One plant is better than no plant. Okay. If a house owner doesn't want trees, tell them, would you like a vine? Would you like a shrub? Would you like something ornamental? आपको भगवान को चढ़ाने के लिए कुछ चाहिए क्या? They'll not want जामुन का पेड़ और बबूल का पेड़. Tell them आपको चमेली का पेड़ चाहिए क्या? आसोपालव चाहिए? Jasmine चाहिए क्या? So we tailor it. It's not a templated approach, and that is where all this, again, connecting back to Khadi urbanism. It's handmade, it's decentralized, it's modular, it is non-violent, and it's respectful of diversity and democracy. We do not do one size fits all solution. We go door to door, and depending on how they talk, looking at a house, agar unke paas already paid hai, you can push for more jungly paid. If it's a completely paved house, जिसने footpath भी अपना SUV parking का ramp बना दिया है, you already know, it's a lot of this is just common sense. You already know that, hey, you know what, I should be little more tactful. I should just suggest them Because even for them, it's a journey. Even for them, it's a journey. उनको एक छोटा सा ornamental plant भी दे दिया, believe me, in 3 to 5 years time, they'll come to you and say, I want a tree now. You know? So you just look at this scene. There are, how many trees do you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 trees, and in fact 10 and 11, just in this 25-meter patch. You know? And while doing so, what I would also like to point out is, again, a lot of it is common sense. People don't like trees because they think हमारा SUV का parking चला जाए और चलने की जगह नहीं रहेगी or whatever. Again, a lot of this is common sense. Where should you, I mean, okay, you should plant biodiverse trees and all. Where should you plant it? There's a pattern to all of this. It may not be visible, but there's a pattern to all of this. And most of it is just observation. We drive on the left side of the road. We know how cars turn, what their turning radius is, how they are going to reverse, etc., etc. We know people like walking in straight path. So we know that big trees cannot be near the compound wall. This is all common sense. Okay, so just start doing it and the solutions will come to you. I don't even need to teach you those. You already know that next to the koi compound se chipak ke chalne nahi wala. So identify the dead spaces. What are the dead spaces which are never used? Identify them and just dig a hole, plant something. Compound wall pe you plant a shrub or a vine, because compound wall pe ye trellis jali hota hai. They often have a shed. तो वहां पे वाइन या shrubs लगा सकते हो. Drain pipes, most importantly, in order to reduce flooding, look at the topology of the land. Rooftop is the mountain, stormwater drain is the valley, and the road itself has a passive gravitational flow of water. When you do a car wash, पानी एक तरफ बहेगा, दूसरी तरफ नहीं बहेगा, because that is upstream and the other is downstream. So just observe the flow of water during monsoon, during car wash, whatever, as you walk down the street. And wherever there is water, dig a hole. The perforation is done. Where there is a hole, biodiversity jhak maar ke, like it will naturally follow, because that's what happens in the jungle over billions of years. You don't have to specially take care to plant native trees and get trees from the nursery at a high cost. Find out the local names. Where you take care of the water topography, biodiversity jhak maar ke aayegi. And over here, in fact, a bit ahead where my house is, just 100 meters behind, there was one species of bird. Here, there are now 45 species of bird that I have personally identified. 45 species of birds. So people tell me Gujarat mein ye possible nahi hai, whatever. All of that is a giant lie. सब कुछ उगता है गुजरात में, and wherever, whatever, in India में हर पेड़, there's hundreds of native species for each climatic region. यहाँ पे वड उगता है, पीपल उगता है, सब कुछ. So just take things with a pinch of salt and go ahead with it. And if I can just now quickly go ahead, what happens? So you are seeing all these trees, but what happens is these are fruit trees. So it's already, this is a food forest now. We have planted jamun, we have planted amla. All these trees you are actually seeing are sitafal, ramfal, guava, chiku, bear, papaya, pomegranate, mango. People look at these trees with envy, and all of these are native trees, and we are not growing them in our gardens. Municipal gardens, one corner in our municipal schools, in our municipal jails, or on our streets. We have planted mahua over here. People don't, mahua is a native tree of Gujarat. Tribal people worship it, and people in urban Gujarat do not even know what it is. You know, it's that bad. People cannot identify any tree species other than neem and the very common ones that are seen on our streets. Neem and banyan are easily identified. Asopala is identified. They won't be able to identify what is a boar or a mahua. Lot of the time, not all of them, but especially the younger generation, don't count on them being able to identify. So what does all this do? This increases not just the ecological of the street, it increases the real estate value by crores and crores. I am personally benefiting through all this. Suddenly, instead of just the local repair shop or grocer, suddenly a cafe comes here. I want a Starbucks to open over here on my, ignorable street. And what we are also doing is not just plantation. We are, Trishan joined me in this. We are again identifying dead spaces, dead surfaces. Who cares about a dirty gray electric pole which has advertisements stuck on it? So we go and paint poles, we paint walls, we painted the central divider and the municipality removed it. We painted it so beautiful. And slowly, what I want you to know about this incremental urbanism, what this leads is, it generates demand in the population. It generates demand. Suddenly, when one street starts looking nice, it has a ripple effect on the whole neighborhood. Parallel street people start saying, hey, you know what? Why is their street looking so good? Why don't I do something like this? Why is their house looking so nice? Because, that is what happens. It's like Sharma ji ka beta. किसी ने 3 मंजिले का घर बना है तो आई वांट अ 3 मंजिले का घर. किसी ने एसयूवी लिया तो मुझे एसयूवी वो भी एक्सेल एसआई वर्जन चाहिए. That is how people think. So behavioral change happens due to these social aspects. And you get real estate value, you connect with the neighborhood, you achieve all the ecological benefits that I'm pretty sure you are aware of. And suddenly it generates demand. People start demanding things from their own local ward कि हमें भी ये चाहिए. ऐसा क्यों है कि बाजू वाले पड़ोसी के पास ये है और मेरे पास नहीं है? And let me tell you, this effect rubs off on the municipality as well. This street is the most cleanest street in the last 7 years. There's not a single piece of plastic you will find here. So instead of going and there's no dustbin here. There's no dustbin I have yet installed or the municipality has installed. But people invest in places, even the government invests in places where they think, oh, rich people live, they are going to vote for us, they have some influence, whatever. Even the government workers will neglect some other street, but do their best to improve this street. So it has all these compounding layers, network effects, I should say. And I now almost conclude, but over here, what we are also doing, so this is my house, we are even building benches, and the benches are actually crescent shaped so that they capture the rainwater runoff and infiltrate it at the base of the trunk, rather than letting the water go into the storm drain or the Vimal packets or the eroded topsoil. So we create these bioswale benches, and we have created a lot of things. I'll stop my screen share and just a second. I'm almost at the end. I'll just quickly show you some pictures I collected. So, because it's not that visible in the street view. So is my screen visible, my photos?
Yes.
Okay. So this is how the street used to be when I was young. This is me when I was young. This is how the street used to be. This is when I began. This is the same street which I just left in the street view. This is right outside my house. This is how it was. Diwali ke phatake phode jate the center divider mein. This is how it was. And this is what I'm trying to say. No matter who you are, you could be engineer, architect, doctor. This is in your power and nobody else. You cannot count on some big name architect to come and fix your street. I talked of 4,300 cities. Imagine how many streets are there in those 4,300 cities. So this is what it was back in the day. And this is how we began. This is literally the first tree I was planting. And I literally felt the neighbors will call the police. I was 23, fresh out of college with a degree and so well educated and all those things. And I was afraid that the neighbors would call the police, because we have been grown with this mentality that we have to ask the government for anything. And the government is the most capable. We think that the government is the most capable, but this whole world, everything that you see in this world around you was, to put it humbly, built by people not that much, maybe little smarter, but not that much smarter than you and I. Everything in the world. If you can build your house, you can build a bench or a footpath or a cycle track. So this is us then making, I mean, we try to do all the things. It's not just plantation in some, ground outside the city where nobody is going to come. We do it where people already live, because that is when the change happens. It has so many network effects. Once you graduate out of college, you suddenly, when you enter office, you suddenly feel a lack of friends because they move cities, some go foreign or whatever, people get busy. And this is a way that I have been able to again make a lot of friends from all age groups and all diverse backgrounds in my hometown, and be able to conduct workshops. And it's a blast. We have Bluetooth speaker music, we have a picnic. It's just a fun weekend, it's not even it doesn't even feel like a huge task that you are doing. You are having fun basically. And I mean, this is how I actually teach. And today we are like such an empowered generation that sitting in Pune, I can teach through Zoom by drawing on the screen share. I actually teach people that, hey, all these circles are actually spaces you can plant trees. It may look full, but it's actually the whole world is your rotika, whatever, dough. It's your playground. You can actually grow vines on the bus stop. You can put a tree at the edge of the footpath and road. You can put a shrub. And this is how I teach people that, hey, even in the most packed places, so much more can happen, in a way that the parking or the balcony view or the pedestrian experience is not at all affected. And there's a pattern to it. Mostly you can see it's the corners of the gate. That is one pattern. Then there's the corners of the house. That is another pattern. Another pattern is just the first row of paver blocks next to the compound wall. Another pattern is obviously the road, the interface between the road and the footpath. So it's just probably an AI could do this. It's just a simple pattern and algorithm. And I actually try to show how the water flows when it rains. You can see the gravitational height difference. You can actually just by looking at it, you can tell. It's all common sense how the water is going to flow. You know where the stormwater drain is. So that's the ending point. So you just know that, okay, rooftop se pani aane wala hai. So rooftop, courtyard, then it's going to start flowing towards the storm drain. And center divider is always elevated than the sides of the roads. So usually this is how water flows. And then if you make perforations, some water is going to go in. But now if you put a plant, the plant has roots, so the water will percolate deeper. But now next to the plant, if you put these just one brick layer or two brick layer, not even a full bench, we make these raised benches which completely cut off the water from the tree. But if you make crescent shaped benches, it is going to trap topsoil, it's going to trap rainfall runoff, and what you have to slow down the water so that it percolates. Flowing water cannot percolate into the ground. So this thing compounds. Each spell of rainfall over 4 months, over each year, it compounds, and suddenly you can harvest 1 million liters of water. I'm not kidding. 1 million liters of water. Here again, I'm showing that there is co-plantation. We co-plant a vine with a tree or a shrub with a tree. In the shade of a giant tree, a baramasi or a jasmine can grow. And we see, this is how we identify dead space. Now behind the bench, nobody is going to ever walk there. Nobody is ever going to park there. It's just a dead, wasted area. So why not put it to some good use? Paint the wall, put some plant. Automatically urination reduces. Suddenly street vendors start showing up. Pani puri walas show up. Pav bhaji walas show up. ice cream wala show up. And when they show up, suddenly women start hanging out on the street. Children start hanging out on the street. Suddenly the speed of traffic slows down because people are looking on the side. Hey, what is there? It looks interesting. So the speed on the street becomes safer. So there are literally the solution to all your problems is go and fix your street. It is going to be sociologically sustainable. Perhaps the only way to do it. The only way anybody is going to fix your street is in a sociologically, financially, and environmentally sustainable way, is that you take matters in your own hands. And that is what Khadi urbanism is all about. And just to give you now a full sense of idea, and then I'll just wrap up. This is all the things we do. And each of those things are built out of completely either upcycled materials or materials that are completely modular and made out of simple hand-based tools like scissor, saw, M-seal, wire, plier, things like that. Nothing is factory made and everything is labor intensive. India's greatest strength is its human resource. And there is plenty of unemployment, especially with artificial intelligence right now, because we are pursuing supply side capital intensive ways of making cities. Kartavya Path. I call my street Adhikar Path for a reason, because what I see happening is Dholeras and gifts and Amravatis and Lavasas and Kartavya Path and Coastal Road and whatever. But none of that is going to come fix your street. So this is all that we do. Seesaws. And they are better, not just because they are jugadu or handmade, and the cost of this is just 1,500 rupees. People in this talk are earning 20 lakh, 30 lakh, 10 lakh per annum, whatever. This is, today you can just fund your whole neighborhood. Building a bench is 2,500 rupees. Building a seesaw is 1,500 rupees. It's no big deal. This is just PVC pipes or bamboo sticks. And the mechanism is so simple. So we do seesaws. We paint shop shutters in an ecological way, and we paint shop shutters in a way that it reflects their business. So this is a Naika Dukan, barber shop. So we are painting scissors and mirrors and all those things. And this is how it looks toward the end. So suddenly, because the street looks better, the ice cream wala or pani puri wala can charge 25 rupees instead of 15 rupees for his pani puri. And that is how the economy also grows. The local tourism, the hyper-local economy grows. This is a completely abandoned bus stop that we painted. Yahan bus rukti nahi hai, but we just made it a place to sit. And elderly people in the neighborhood helped us paint it. So all of these things are meant, again, it's the Charkha philosophy. Sabka haath lagna chahiye. Sabka haath lagna chahiye. The city should not be built by one urban design team. Master's degree holders. This is how a central divider can look like. And it reflects the culture of the place. The tribal people who are migrating to cities and becoming construction workers, labor chowk pe jo, bhuke pet jate hai, and you saw the crisis of the migrants during COVID pandemic. You can have a National Urban Employment Guarantee Act that can put people to use retrofitting urban streets like this. Paint, plant, play. This is how the water logging looks like. So that is why you should put the perforations, plants, and the crescent shaped brick to halt the water. And this is like, I'll just take you through the photos. Everything is modular. So if something breaks, I just have to fix that one modular part. The whole thing doesn't have to be replaced. हमारे cement and सरिया के benches होते हैं. They break down like anything. उस पे corporator का नाम होता है. They are not even kept under trees. They are made of glazed ceramic and kept under 48 degrees Celsius heat. We make brick benches on spot. So each brick bench looks unique. We paint it in a unique manner. And again, this is just next to my house, how the neighborhood looks like. It's like an oasis in a desert. This is what we make. Completely handmade, made of ordinary waste material. Wire hai, PVC board hai, all of it can be done by 8th standard kids, 7th standard kids. This is a tic-tac-toe game outside my house. This is how we compost leaves and educate people through signboards. We paint the poles rather than just dull, boring gray. We paint it golden and red. It just brings that. This is how that white Gujarati soil is now black forest, Kerala soil, jahan mushrooms grow naturally. We use the tree cages as leaf compost so that people don't burn them. Now, every morning for the past 25 years, they are burning it. We have put a tire swing right outside my house. And you can see how beautiful it looks. Amaltas, bougainville, basketball, bench, still there's a footpath and there's a tire swing. And I can't tell you how much joy people have taken, people who don't have footwear, people who don't have stitched clothes or buttons on their shirt. They are the ones playing on the street. They don't have to go to a fenced garden and be driven off by the security guard and all those things. This is my laborer, Subhash Bhai. He along with me has almost single-handedly, one or two people have single-handedly built this street. And it has sustained, it has given him employment on the weekends for the past 5 years now. And he knows more now about urbanism than many of you possibly. Because while doing it, it's a learning thing for him. He knows where to plant trees, what to plant, how to water them, how to dig, all those things. We educate people about the biodiversity, about the missing species such as a female sparrow. This is a street nursery. तो दूध के पैकेट में हम मेरे गार्डन के जो बारिश में जो भी सीड्स उगते हैं, we just grow them. And these are the biosphere benches. This is how we harvest the water and ensure that it doesn't flood the street and it reaches the tree trunk. And at the same time, it achieves all the things. This is a passive leaf composter. It gives root space to the trees. It is a street dog shelter. It is a tool storage area, etc., etc. And this is what Khadi urbanism is all about. That the benches can be like this, citizen-led, and better in every aspect. In terms of sustainability, better. In terms of aesthetics, better. In terms of safety, better. In terms of durability, better. So, what are municipalities, architects? We have women not just, visiting the street. It gives, when people see young women painting the street and building the benches with us. This is a friend of mine, lady architect. Suddenly, it changes things in society as well. People start looking at the new generation in a different way. We are harvesting water which is coming upstream, blocking it before the storm rain, and letting it percolate into the soil. And this is just a taste of what all you can do. This is a under the flyover school. And it builds community, it makes friends. And you can take telephone boxes and paint them. Tic-tac-toe, again street nursery. This is a compost bin. This is like a neki ki diwar. You can donate your toys and whatever footwear so that other people can take it. This is actually a way to pin up advertisements and all those things in an organized manner, not just kahin pe bhi circus ka ad ya apartment ka ad. In an organized manner, you can have a public notice board and pin up things according to lost and found, employment, lots and lots of things, first aid kit. And lastly, this is just Trishant helping us last year on World Environment Day. So with that, this is, you can even tell me how many public water taps exist. Sab Bisleri pani peete hai kya? So this is actually how you can think of it, ecological aspects as well as urbanism aspects. So this is a public water tap, urbanism, right? Where does the wastewater go? So what we are showing here is the wastewater of the public tap goes into a little container, which the dogs and the cows and the goats and whatever animal is on the street can drink, and uska overflow goes to the plant. So, the world, you have to start looking at the world as something you can modify. Okay. And sometimes inspiration can just be anywhere, This is just next to my house, it's an ashram, but they have a better sense of urbanism than a lot of the experts. Where is the drain water going? It's going to the cows and the dogs. It's not just getting wasted. And yes, with that, I'd like to conclude. Thank you very much I may have extended the time a bit, but thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Suhrd. I'd like to invite our founder, Shravani Garu, to come and please initiate the Q&A session and take the session forward.
Risha, don't call me Garu.
Sorry, apologies.
Okay. Amazing talk. I would like to express my gratitude to the speaker, Suhrd, on behalf of not just Vishwa, but every citizen in our country and the world, for one so young, to see something around you that is not functioning, to question it. And not only to question, but to come out with solutions by yourself. And not just come out with solutions, but coming out with a catalog of ideas on how things can be done, how trash can be handled, how compost pits can be done, how games can be put at low cost, how donations of slippers or toys can be given, how water can be done. Your thinking process is so inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
I must thank both Trishant and you, Suhrd, for coming out with such a lovely talk and to bring you as a Vishwa speaker to show people that what a young man like you can contribute, no matter from where you come from. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to thank the audience for making WishwaTalks a huge success. Each of you come, some of you come so regularly, and you keep our spirits up for doing this talk with change makers like Suhrd. Thank you so much to all the participants. Now we will continue with before we continue, I would like to talk about the upcoming talks. Yes. We have Miss Pujita Krishna. No, yeah.
Yes.
Miss Pujita Krishna, organization Feet on Earth. She's going to talk on the topic Dance as a Ritual, Examples from India and the World. The date is 22nd July, 11 a.m. Next, we have the next talk by Utkarsh Upadhyaya from WaterAid India, hydrogeologist, planning and researcher. The topic is groundwater regeneration and aquifers. It's on 29th July 2023, 11 a.m. My request to all the audience is, when it comes to topics on ecology, the response in India is very low. I would like each of you to share about it with your friends and family and ensure that awareness is built. Today, we have so many calamities around us. We have COVID, which has come, but we haven't learned our lessons. We have temperatures rising up to 48 degrees. We haven't learned our lessons that we need to protect Mother Earth. We have the recent floods happening in Uttarakhand and Delhi, and the streets are filled. Yet we as humans have not changed our ways. The least you and me can do is bring in awareness. I request that each of you get at least 10 people to watch such talks on environment, specifically my request. Lastly, please take a moment to subscribe to WishwaTalks to get alerts on every new and exciting talk, exclusive events, and access to the Vishwa community. Please follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for future updates. Subscribe to WishwaTalks and ensure each of your friends and family who you want, especially the children, who you want the awareness to be built, that they subscribe to it. And if there are any schools who are interested in us conducting the talks with them, Please let us know. Yes. Now I will move on to the question and answers. If there is anybody who has any questions, please raise your hand. Trishant is already ready with a question. Carry on, Trishant.
Yes, thank you so much. I'd like to bring in the first question, as I have already kind of participated in Suhrd's activities in the past. Suhrd, could you please explain about that painting on the electricity pole, how it affects how people think about that particular area, like, bringing in the bees and butterflies and everything by not cutting weedy plants. Could you elaborate that part? Or you
Yes.
could take again to the street view if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll just give me a second.
Sure.
It's right here actually. Is my screen share visible?
Yes, yes,
I'm not.
yes,
So this is just opposite to my house. This is my house, and this is just opposite to my house. So this is a pole. None other than the moderator has painted. So Trishant has painted this, and when I called him and he was painting, he was like, "Why am I doing?" Like somewhere in the back of my mind, even I could tell, was like, "ये क्या चल रहा है?" You know, why has he called me? And यहाँ पे तो shade भी नहीं है, तो ऐसे धूप में खड़े रह के, and Trishant sweats a lot actually. So, so he's like, "Why am I doing all this?" So Trishant, it's better if you talk about it. I have the screen share.
Yeah, sure. So, as I was more experienced in planting trees in the past and everything, I was like, why am I painting? Could you please answer me that? Because again, I mean, we are using resources, using it on government property, like an electricity pole. So why are we doing this? This sort of gave me a very beautiful answer that every year, this plant that you see, which is considered to be a weed or an unwanted plant, it is basically cut off by the municipal corporation workers or individuals who just want more parking space or something like that. So I asked him, what is it? So he told me, if we paint the same plant that is there on the electricity pole and then draw butterflies and bees in the illustration, it gives people an idea. As the plant grows, it tells them that, yeah, okay, if you don't cut this plant, the bees and the butterflies are going to move into this area. So please do not cut it. Do not cut that weed plant that is there outside your house. It will create its own ecosystem. It will start absorbing all the flood water that is there. It will allow water to seep in a lot of different ways. So a lot of those kind of plants, Suhrd actually helped in preserving. And now that because of that activity, there's just a lot more birds coming in because of the insects. There's many different species of birds coming to his locality. My locality sees a lot lesser birds in comparison to his locality, which is like 7 kilometers away or so. So he's made a lot of difference in how people can visualize the future of a particular plant's existence through illustrations and through beautiful representations.
So thanks for that, Trishant. Just to continue on his note, it's basically, see, I didn't want to distribute flyers, okay? Or I didn't want to be this preacher who will stand on a podium in the neighborhood and talk like a neta, or because I myself am like shy and introverted, and probably the neighborhood would have thought he's a crazy fellow or something. Already so much I'm doing, they must have thought all this. But what happens is, basically the idea was, how do you win without firing a single bullet? I mean, again, Khadi urbanism, but how do you win without firing a single bullet? And I was just like, okay, if there are, as Trishant said, this is actually a completely unwanted native, possibly, but jungly plant. It just grows from the soil when it rains or whatever. And not even every year, every 4 or 5 months, they'll keep cutting, because that's just a SOP now for them, standard operating procedure for them. So they just keep cutting, and you just have to start questioning everything, like, why? What harm is that plant doing? Nobody is going to go and hug the electric. Okay. Nobody is going to park the car right next to it. So it is, wherever there's a pole, it's already some little bit of dead space in that radius gets created. So what's the harm? It's not even going to grow tall. It's just going to remain a shrub. Yet, because it's an SOP, they keep cutting, or because of the socio-cultural reasons. So my whole thing was that, okay, if they can't notice or respect the actual butterflies and the squirrels and robins and whatever that exists over there, sometimes you need to do a fake butterfly to educate people about the real butterfly, you know. So they don't seem to notice the flowers and in fact, there's one more example right here. I already showed you, like, this is the same thing. The reason why I'm showing the birds is because we want you to start noticing. You are probably you don't know what an oriental magpie robin is. You don't know what an Indian robin is. You just know pigeon, peacock, myna, that's it. And kawa. You know, you don't know a lot of these slightly rarer birds like a purple sunbird or whatever. And again,
Bee
one
catcher.
example like
Also a bee catcher.
yeah, bee catcher, Vedaragu as it's called in Marathi. So one more example, and then we can take the next question. This is a rui or aise Shivji ko chadate fool. It's some calotropis it's called. This is again a wild plant which just grows all over Gujarat actually. But urban area mein, because it's an ugly plant or whatever, people keep cutting it. People want the ornamental stuff. So again, psychology. You know what we did here? We just put bricks as a perimeter, a semicircle that you see. We just placed bricks around it. That's it.
Okay.
Guess what happened?
Yeah.
So Trishan, you want to tell what happens next or why it happens?
No, I'm confused. Please go ahead.
So they don't respect the plant. They respect the fact that it looks designed.
Yes.
The municipal workers will cut this plant because there are no bricks around it, but they left this plant from cutting. And that was almost a social experiment, the micro experiment I was carrying out. Because this thing to the ordinary ground municipal worker who is just given instructions and is supposed to just follow the instructions from a supervisor, this looks like somebody is taking care of it. This looks as if somebody has deliberately planted it. So they think, hey, you know what? We can't cut this. But we have not even cemented the bricks. We have just placed bricks. But even not just with the municipal worker, even to the ordinary pedestrian or resident, the street just looks that much more, prettier. It looks a bit more European. It looks a bit more designed, but not that centralized. 100 crore rupees leke street design that happens in smart city. This is just waste bricks from construction malba somewhere. We just put it and ek shobha deta hai basically. Yeah, next question.
Yes, Suhrd. I'd like to call upon Shmuel. Shmuel is a guest from.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I hear.
From Israel, and he'd like to ask a lot of questions.
I want to ask. I can?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Firstly, very interesting presentation. I very enjoyed from this presentation, and I want to ask you, what according to you need to do for effective retrofitting urban spaces among poor and low socioeconomic groups of population? This is my question.
I'll add to that. Suhrd, we have a lot of slums, right? You've talked about areas where there are proper houses. What our participant, Mr. Shmuel, is asking is, when you are in slum areas, when you are in low income areas, what would you suggest?
Right. So I have seen examples of low income areas becoming very prosperous in Pune. In fact, that is actually the sort of urbanism I would advocate for. That great neighborhoods or like this Jangli Maharaj Road, I talked of incremental urbanism, right? So what happens is wherever these gated societies come up, a lot of times just next to it, these shacks will also start coming up. Tin shacks, okay? It's right outside my residence right now here as well. But when you have this sort of, I mean, citizen-led handmade sort of urbanism, and in fact these people that we are currently referring to, they are natural, it's the natural habitat, handmade urbanism almost, like it's literally what they do. So the street stall owners, the tin shack slums and all those things, I have seen in Pimpri Chinchwad them getting upgraded over time and becoming richer. So they start first, I mean, any town, say any American town in the 1700s that was established along the railroad line. Okay, how did any city start? It just, there's this amazing page called Strong Towns whose ideas almost completely echo mine. And I briefly referred to it first. Public investment should always be less than private investment, and public investment should follow private investment. Okay, cities are built all in through demand-led growth. That is how they become powerhouses. That is why today Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, Lonavala, Pimpri Chinchwad, Pune, Thane, Kalyan Dombivli, they are absolute powerhouses. And Gandhinagar, not in the next 100 years, can ever match that. You can pour millions of rupees into Gandhinagar, but if the current model continues, it can never match that.
Suhrd, I'd like to ask you. Suhrd, I'd like to ask you, assuming you are able to put up a paper to the government, to the ministry, to the urban ministry, to the secretaries out there, how would you design a road which is 20 feet or a 40 feet or an 80 feet or 100 feet, taking into consideration the drains, the electrical poles, the drinking water, the Wi-Fi, and all the paper wires that come inside, and also, as Mr. Shmer is asking, considering all these, how will you give the design? Number one. Number two, do you think that will a public transport system, whether it is electrical, that is metros, trams, e-buses, electrical passenger ships, can support retrofitting urban space and create ecological balance in urban territories? These are my two questions to you.
Absolutely. Great question. So first step to all of this is decentralization, political and financial, devolution of power. That's the first step. Today, we have 4,300 cities, and literally 30 people are running the cities through their puppets. So the 30 people I'm referring to are the 30 chief ministers and one prime minister. They are democratically elected executive heads. Okay, and their puppets are the IAS, Indian Administrative Service, municipal commissioners, which are appointed people. They are not even representatives of the actual local population. Often they don't know the local context. That is step one, I would say. I would go even further.
One question here. Yeah. Don't we have a city mayor or a town elected representative working along with them?
We do, but they function more or less in an advisory capacity, and like the veto power lies with the commission in the end. And ultimately, if the chief minister wants something that the city does not want, the IAS is going to listen to his boss. So in Western countries, there's a 3-tier federalism, and Western countries are a tiny fraction of our population. The people who colonized us themselves have a 3-tier federalism, where the London mayor is the executive head of the city. Okay, and popularly elected. Okay, so that is just step one. I was actually going a bit further. In a country of 140 crore population, again, it will, I don't have the answers to all of it, but the decentralization cannot even stop at the mayor level, because take a look at Bangalore, what, 1.5 crore people. 1 or 3 mayors can't handle that population. Delhi, 2.5 crore or whatever, 2.25 crore, Delhi NCR. 3-4 mayors can't handle it. So that decentralization needs to go till the ward level. That is one thing. And then to directly answer your question, the master plan, I'm not saying architects and urban designers don't have a role, but A, they should involve the citizens, and B, let the need arise. Let the need arise first, and then bring them into the picture, and that too at the ward level. Because these master plans are often citywide and they don't take into consideration the hyperlocal context at all. Yeah, sure, you could have the GIS mapping of the water lines, electric lines, those things, but the world still functions even in so-called unplanned places. We have to ultimately understand, do we want a completely planned but a dead city, or do we want a maybe little unplanned, little haphazard but lively, living, throbbing city? In my ranking, I would place Dharavi above Gandhinagar. That's what I would say. What was the second part? About the public transit, right?
Yes.
Could you just repeat it once?
Once. So this question is from Mr. Shmel, and he's asking that how development like electrical public transport as metro, trams, e-buses, electrical passenger ships can support retrofitting urban space and creating ecological balance in urban territories.
So that is actually the foundation of, is my screen share still visible now, right? I'd like to show a quick example in my own city, and that is actually why I'm speaking so passionately, because I have seen my city get destroyed. It was better in my childhood, and now it may have more population, but culturally, intellectually, and economically, it has declined. And I'll just like to show on this public transport question what they did. And it boils my blood every time I think about it. I already mentioned, imagine if a 3.5 kilometer elevated 6-lane flyover built solely for SUVs who are like maybe 2% of India's population, maybe 1%, 10% of India's population drive any vehicle. Out of that, how many people actually drive a car and how many drive an SUV? Maybe less than 1%. For SUVs and trucks, they built in my hometown 3.5 kilometer elevated 6-lane highway through downtown, the most poshest area of the city, the most happening or commercial area of the city, where pedestrians hang out during evening time or whatever. They took 9 years, literally the whole last decade they were building this. And when it's finally completed, it was already in the first train, the asphalt has uprooted and all those things. And it's just a total nightmare. Like it has made the city ugly. It has dropped. Nobody will want to live here anymore because of the traffic, because of the cars you are enabling, because of the noise and the pollution now. And literally the center of the city, they drilled a flyover through it. And people should understand how would you feel, to understand my seething anger? How would you feel if somebody tore a highway through Connaught Circle or through Marine Drive? How would you feel? Because Baroda's downtown, this was the only place which was slightly decent in the city. And the more I started learning about urbanism and about the history of my city, I realized that back in the princely era, Sir Sayajirao Gaikwad, the king of Baroda during the British time, and not just Baroda, every city, almost every city had a tram system. And metro is expensive, and metro is good for cities above 5 million or 50 lakh population. So Ahmedabad, Pune, Delhi, possibly Lucknow, okay. What about all the tier 2, tier 3 cities? You can't do a metro there. Okay. The only public transport solution that makes sense here is a BRT or a tram. And all the cities, Surat, Mumbai, just outside CST, there was a tram that used to run in the 1960s. Surat had a tram, Baroda had a tram. And the tram ensured that the streets remained walkable and people were like not owning cars, and the layout of the apartments were denser, etc., etc. There were more shops at the ground level and generally vertical building rather than just bungalows sprawling on the horizontal landscape, which is every old city area. So old Surat, old Baroda, these were throbbing towns. And now you look at every Gujarati city, Ahmedabad, Baroda, Surat, Rajkot, it's just a flyover mania that is happening. And it's gonna get worse. And I mean, even a tram system is a form of retrofitting only, right? Retrofitting, although I champion citizen-led as a starting point, okay, as a means to just start getting people to think and get their hands working and to get them interested in the topic and to build communities, because that is the foundation layer to the obviously bigger systems that we'll need, like storm lines and sewage lines and like a blue-green master plan or a network of tram connectivity. So when you have a tram system, because there are so many more people and there's so much pedestrian culture, and because even in the tram you are not driving, you are having conversations and you are looking at the city, it's like a toy train basically through the city, you automatically start having conversations or you start meeting people, and all those things basically snowball over the years. Pune, I certainly believe Pune is Pune today because it has narrower lanes, it has a robust bus system, now the metro is coming, and basically the city has not been just opened up to cars like anything. Like
Can I ask?
4-lane road
Can I ask?
compared to a 12-lane road.
Can I ask a question here? Are you saying that the urban ministry at Delhi or the urban ministry in the states or the chief ministers or the IAS officers pertinent to the to urban planning are not thinking through all this? Are
Yes.
they not, one second, let me complete. So not only not thinking, are they not looking at why there is migration from rural cities to urban places and putting pressure on the urban infrastructure? Is there no planning happening? Is there no enough importance being given to it?
Importance is being given. In fact, right now, under the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, sort of central government-led high-level committee has been set up on urban planning. But that is a very recent news, just last month. Till now, whatever planning was happening was this, and in fact, it is still this. We are not out of the woods at all. In fact, the planning that is being taught in Baroda's architectural colleges, when I interact with the architect students, and this is the case almost maybe little less so in Maharashtra, maybe little less so in bigger cities, but in most of the smaller cities, the urbanism that is being taught or the urban planning that is being taught is by a person who is said to have metaphorically killed more people than Oppenheimer, which is Le Corbusier. So there was this whole trend in the 1960s where cars were a novelty, cement was a novelty, and everything was centrally planned, like government-led big heavy infrastructure in the post-World War era. And that is how you end up ended up with a lot of, and we also, because we were so, like, we had gotten out of British colonialism, and then there was a new superpower on the rise, America. We look towards America because, oh, they are the most
Can we remove
prosperous.
the slide, please? Can we remove the slide so that you are visible?
Light.
Slide.
Can you stop sharing the screen?
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a second.
Okay.
Is it stopped?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And we have to be very short with our question and answer session because time is running out.
yeah. So we basically followed a very American car-centric model. And to this day, the state level and the central level people are looking at it from that lens. Also, the politicians have their own requirements, because we are now on the cusp of becoming maybe Vishwaguru or 5 trillion economy, and I speak for people across all political parties. They just want to show a flyover because dikhta hai to bikta hai, you know, the public thinks, oh, something big has been built. You know, maybe in their mind, big is good, and cycle lanes and footpath with a wheelchair ramp and tram is like all things that are not going to garner votes. But a coastal road on or a giant Sardar Patel statue or Shivaji Maharaj statue is going to garner votes. So there are a lot of aspects here. The most frightening crisis right now is the riverfront, because this very central-led high-level committee, they are now starting to talk in some postmodern language rather. Okay, there should be like blue-green infrastructure and cycle lanes and all these things. But at the same time, there is this extremely heavy push behind channelized riverfronts, river embankments. And if I'm not wrong, 30 riverfronts are already being built or work in progress, and possibly 100 more rivers are on the chopping block. And I actually am fighting to save the Pune riverfront. I'm the design head of the protest movement because it's an ecological paradise in a top 8 city of India. And I really feel like this whole anarchist urbanism thing came out because I was so disillusioned by everything that is happening at the higher up level.
Yes, one question from Mr. Shmuel Yerushami. Please unmute yourself. Yes.
Yeah, I hear. You hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I want to ask your next question, third question for today. I want to ask you, is it according to you COVID-19 pandemic, COVID-19 crisis created any new opportunities for retrofitting urban spaces?
Can you repeat your question? Are you saying, is there a design you are suggesting for retrofitting urban spaces? Are you asking that question? Because your language is a little not clear. That's why I'm asking this question.
Yeah, this is my question. If pandemic of COVID-19 creating any new opportunities for retrofitting urban spaces, different aspects of retrofitting urban spaces.
Did you understand, Trishant or Suhrd?
Could you type the question as well? Maybe we are having trouble with the accent.
Could you type out the question? We are having trouble with the accent.
I have my question in the chat. I have my question.
Okay.
So in the chat.
Your question was, what according to you need to for effective retrofitting urban spaces among poor and low socio-economic groups of population? Is that your question? Is that your question?
My question is,
I found, yes, I found another question.
what opportunities creating COVID-19 pandemic for retrofitting urban spaces?
What opportunities created COVID-19 pandemic for retrofitting urban spaces?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This is my question.
Great question. Thanks for that. When there was a nationwide lockdown, and I mean, not just nation, there was a global lockdown rather. What happened in America was, like, or even here, like all the streets were completely empty. Okay. What happened in America was that suddenly people were like not taking cars and whatever, and people were also tired of being at home. So suddenly they started doing things because there was so much free time as well on their hand. They could not travel and all those things. Suddenly they started like, you know, everybody had this thing that, oh, we'll do home improvement or we'll learn recipes. In fact, it was the similar journey for me as well, that I started looking at my neighborhood. Suddenly I just had a lot more time to look at my neighborhood. And in America especially, they because suddenly people saw that, hey, for once there are no cars, and how beautiful it is, how quiet and serene it all is. Suddenly you can see the peaks of the mountain and all those things on the horizon, even in India. So in America, they started doing bike lanes, because during COVID you wanted to be healthier because you are not getting enough exercise. So they started encouraging bike lanes, and they started tending to gardening, and even the shops, they were not getting any business. So they sort of went onto the footpath by putting a few flowering plants here and there, and just making the space outside their shop a little more attractive. They started putting benches in a completely permissionless, anarchist manner to attract people. And like the results are evident. You can just Google all this and you'll see the before and after pictures. It was amazing. Like suddenly there were more people walking, and because you couldn't be in a closed car and whatever, suddenly there were more benches because people had to maintain social distance but also sit and have a coffee or whatever. So it was a wonderful experiment, but a lot of it is now that we have opened up, and the migrant labor has started coming back, a lot of that is again getting returned back to normal. Suddenly you are not trying to do things yourself, you are just relying on cheap labor, etc., and suddenly you have to again make space for car parking. So I hope there was some consciousness, ecological or urbanism consciousness, that came into people, but I see a lot of that overturning very quickly.
Yeah. The next question is from Vempati. How to improve my terrace gardening following all these steps? Can you please share your view on this?
Okay. So I actually run another initiative. It's a sister initiative. There's Project Retrofit, which I was talking about, and there's Project Fertile, which is about terrace gardening. So I'll put it this way. Each and every one of us is a designer. Each and every one of us. You are all sitting in your rooms. You already know, without reading a manual, without doing chat GPT or Googling or anything, without asking an expert, you already know kahan pe undergarment sukhane chahiye. Sorry to put it that way. You probably wouldn't put it on your front balcony, right? You would put it in the back door, right? You already know kitchen garden kahan hona chahiye. Like kitchen garden should have access at the back side, and there should be a back door to the kitchen. You already know if you want to put a flower pot or a table. You already know, without hiring an interior designer or anything, you already know that the plant pot cannot be in the center of the room, right? You know the plant. There is a pattern inbuilt in all of us, which we are already subconsciously aware of. All of us kind of know how to make rangoli or draw something. That is all that is needed even on a terrace to beautify the parapet walls, for example. Gamla, let's say a gamla, you would want to put it in the corner or along the edges, right? You know that there should be a walkway from the door to wherever the interesting places need to be. Let's say there is another staircase on your rooftop. So you know that there needs to be an uninterrupted pathway from your door to the this thing. You know there needs to be a walkway to your satellite dish installation or to your water tank. So that is excluded. So you know the remaining space is the only space you can put your plants. So the design sort of just automatically emerges. The design emerges through exclusion of what's just not possible. You know, chalne ke raaste mein kuch rakh nahi sakte. You know, if you put it towards the perimeter, other people will also see it and you will get some privacy and whatever. So the design kind of naturally emerges, and then you just think a bit deeper. Ki, okay, you can't put a banyan tree on the rooftop, right? So you already know that, okay, I would want to grow some vegetables here, but I would also like vines. So you know the properties of plants. So you can do co-plantation, or if you have a jali of some metal or bamboo on the railing or whatever, you can go grow peas or beans as a vine on top of it, which will attract birds as well, etc. And you know, I mean, thoda sa then science comes into the picture. You know why we have hair on our head. In full summer, the hair protects my skull from getting warm. Same is the concept with the house. So you can just put dry leaves in the remaining spaces where you're not going to walk. You can just make a brick perimeter, put dry leaves or coconut fiber or something. And even if you don't plant anything there, it's lightweight. So you are not putting soil, which will cause a structural load. You in summer, you just put the dry leaves which jo jalai jate otherwise, or the coconut fiber or whatever, and it will cool your house, passively cool your house by 10-15 degrees Celsius in peak summer, just by dumping dry leaves. And then monsoon ke time pe you can store it in a water tank indoors. So these are some of the ways. You need to put some seating. Maybe you want a barbecue. So just let the design naturally emerge.
Next question from Miss Anne Isaac. I wanted to grow herbs in my neighborhood street corners, but received no support. What would you advise?
Okay, so first things that you should look out for is, does your neighborhood have open roaming cattle? Do you have cows, buffaloes, goats in your neighborhood? If that is the case, forget about herbs. Then the only possibility is planting fruit trees and protecting those fruit trees until they grow tall enough that the cow cannot reach it. If you live in a neighborhood where there are no camel, goat, sheep, cows, whatever, and possibly even dogs, because even dogs can eat herbs. So as far as herbs are concerned, that too, if you want the nutritional value of it, you would want to do it in a protected area. It could be, you could cordon off a section of, let's say there's an empty dumping yard. Okay. You could cordon that off and make it look pretty with some paint and some bricks and some seating and things like that. So first get rid of the solution. First get rid of the problem. Like maybe there's some dumping of debris or kachra or whatever that is happening there. Make it look nicer. Then use that as the next step to doing herbs. And that is again coming back to incremental urbanism. Do humbly observe where people in the community struggle. Is that even a problem? Is growing herbs the biggest problem or the real problem that people in your community have? Or are you just doing it out of hobby? So again, Strong Towns also advocates this process. It's a simple 4-step process towards a strong town. Humbly observe where people in your community are actually struggling. Maybe their struggle is not having herbs, because wo corner wale stall pe saste mein mil jata hai. Maybe their problem is the lack of shade or the lack of seating or the lack of a tire swing. So just first observe where they struggle. Then second step, which is very important, do the do the next smallest thing possible. Next smallest thing possible. So herb is one level above. First, check if there is even greenery there. Or are there any herbs nutritionally or non-nutritional? Are there any herbs? Okay, so do the next smallest thing possible, because that unlocks the door to the next step, and that opens up people's mind, and it takes time for them to get used to it. So you can't build Rome in a day. So I am building the street for the past 7 years, and still a lot of things, the major things that I want to do, like the cycle track and all those things, are deliberately kept for the last. Dustbins and cycle tracks, which could lead to some issues. I did the smallest things first, like paint or plant is the smallest thing. When I began putting a seesaw swing, I put it outside my own house first, because that is where I have permission. I don't have to rely on someone else. And so do the next smallest thing which is in your capacity, individual capacity. And slowly, the network will build. You will connect with people, and like hundreds of people will pass through that street every day. And slowly, those conversations will have start happening that, okay, you know what, now we should try for a community garden. Let's put mulberry, let's put whatever, methi and mungfali and all those things.
Okay.
So I hope.
Next question we have from Ms. Sushma Oza. What kind of paint you recommend?
I mean, there are some Vedic natural cow dung paints that are available these days. I haven't tried them out. I don't know what their durability is, and I wasted a lot of time actually trying to be very sustainable about paint. Okay, and here is again where I would like to emphasize, never let great come in the way of good enough. We can't be 1000% perfect, and we can't satisfy every single person. But if a bit of plastic paint, which is durable, especially in India's climate change induced outdoor conditions, extreme sun, extreme rain, use plastic acrylic paint. So I use oil paint on metal surfaces. I use acrylic on cement surfaces. And sometimes to get textures, I mix oil paint with acrylic paint. So those two paints don't mix. So you get very nice textures. So acrylic paint works on metal as well, but uska wo papdi nikal sakta hai in case moisture gets in. So I mean, ideally you should scrape the walls, put a putty and all those things. But the world is huge. Painting one street has taken me 7 years. So just take a tub, 200 liter tub now due to GST. Take a tub and start painting. It's better to paint 25 electric poles and 5 shop shutters in a mediocre manner. Just rangoli type squares and circles, childish manner mein paint karo, rather than spend 2 weeks creating a Da Vinci masterpiece. But ultimately, you just ended up with a small telephone box and the rest of the street is unpainted. So on the street, you should use oil paint or acrylic paint. But at the same time, you should prioritize speed and surface area rather than quality.
Okay. Next question. Next, you have a lot of acknowledgements from Ms. Sabita. Sushma Oza is so proud of you. And then there is Ms. Zenubia Siddiqui, thanks for giving ideas and motivation. God willing, I will try this this winter and summer vacation, involving our neighborhood people. And it's much needed in our area. Then there is one question from Mr. Kailash Simina, Miss, I'm sorry. Is there a catalog with all the ideas to look at and choose? You've given out some beautiful pictures. So is there any catalog?
That's a good idea. In fact, so I have a catalog which I'm building of native, not native, but just 3 species. And I can just show that I have it open. As far as all the ideas are concerned, just get in touch with me. And maybe in case some of you are interested, we can form a intercity whatever initiative, or just a WhatsApp group or a Slack community or something, so that I can guide you over video call or more Zoom sessions or whatever. So I do have a catalog of all the ideas, but they are on my sort of personal folder. I'll just show that as well. I mean, you'll get a small sense of what it is. Just a second. So first things, like very quickly, I'll show is this is a whole database we are creating. And again, I'd like to tell you why this is being created. We now live in we are the most empowered, we live in the most empowered times today. We have cloud software, we can create, although it's a decentralized grassroots initiative, but the information should be centralized. At least the reference material should be centralized. Everyone shouldn't have to go through 7 years journey that I had to go through, right? So what I am trying to do is create, and we have already built like a good database of some 150 this is a complete spreadsheet where all the trees and vines and shrubs and grasses we can think of are being mapped according to all their properties, like what is the plant species, what is the common name, local name, because when you go to the nursery, they are not going to understand some scientific name. So we are mapping the local names, we are mapping the price generally in the nursery. We also map how many in my street, how many of these streets exist. We are mapping all the properties. Is it native? Is it summer tolerant? Is it going to be eaten by cows? Because it's a public street planting initiative. Does it give fruits? Does it give flower? Is it fragrant? Is it an invasive species? What is the growth rate? What is the suitable spot to plant, etc., etc. So in case some of you are knowledgeable about this, you could contribute to this database.
Suhrd, would you like to have some funding to create a proper catalog to identify the catalog not only has what you just said, but you had a lot of ideas on games that can be put on street sides, the donor box that can be put, the water that can be put, the trash cans. If you can come out with a research paper, which can be submitted to the municipalities and the urban ministry, Vishwa would love to coordinate with you and to make a paper like this.
I already have a PPT. I was working as an urban design intern with Vadodara Smart City Corporation. I gave the municipal commissioner a full-fledged PPT, and I have it with me.
If you're using
in fact,
it
right here.
Okay.
I'm just opening it. So is my screen visible?
Yes.
So this is a bit older PPT. It was done in June.
One slideshow, please.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So this is a bit of an older PPT. I had made it for Vadodara Smart City Development Limited. When I was doing my master's degree, I was working as an urban design intern with them. So this is a little dated, 4 years prior. So since then, even my knowledge has evolved a bit. So this was June 2019. And yes, I have exactly, like I needed to communicate to the municipal commissioner in very simple terms. I could not give them a full research paper because they're not going to read it. So I had to like develop a PPT where it's just one image and 2-3 bullet points stating the problem. And maybe if, in case there's some research behind it, because a lot of the solutions are already solved, not just right now, decades ago, these solutions exist. It's just, we are India and that is Europe or something. In fact, it's part of video games. And then I just like give them the solution to all this, so that, yes, that whole PPT is completely, just a second. So yeah, the whole PPT is ready. And we have even done experiments. This is an experiment I did in Bangalore where we saw it working as well. Like we created a notice board and somebody came and put up a 1 BHK thing. And that way it doesn't, vandalize and, make ugly public property. But every idea that I could think of at that point of time, I have like this almost 60-70 slide PPT where I'm showcasing not just examples and solutions, but my own experiments on my street or wherever.
Excellent, excellent. So I'll move forward. We wish that you can do a comprehensive report now that you have many more years of experience. I want to continue. There is a number of people who have been acknowledging you. Ms. Sonali Negi, amazing session. From Mr. Om Prakash, we are enjoying, sir. Please extend the session.
I don't mind.
So next question is from Ms. Zenubia Siddiqui. Even when streets are beautiful, people will deface them. Dustbins installed are stolen. Approachment by immigrants on pedestrian, encroachments by migrants on pedestrian footpaths for living and petty businesses, beggars taking away the things placed for civil people. How can these be addressed?
Great question. Is my screen share stopped?
Yes.
Yeah. So firstly, we need to look at who builds cities. Who builds cities? I would argue the street vendors are actually city builders and street designers. What do street vendors do? They slow down traffic. They make the street safer. They enrich the local economy. They make streets pedestrian friendly and ensure that you don't have to take out your scooter or SUV just to have a cotton candy or a roasted corn 2 kilometer dur jana nahi padta. They are the ones who actually make more than any CCTV or police force. They are the ones who make Indian streets safe for women. So we should actually, what is happening in Vadodara is, again, as part of SOP, they are just, the moment illegal street hawker arrives, they remove it. They load the cart onto the truck and then the person has to pay a fine and all those things. But then why would you even want to live in such a place where street vendors don't exist? You know, why would the amount of women that walk in Pimpri Chinchwad and Pune, you will not find that many women at night, especially post 9 p.m. in a place like Vadodara or Gandhinagar or wherever, Jamshedpur or Bhubaneswar or wherever. So that is one thing. Dustbins installed are stolen. Yes, some things do get defaced, but I am a defacer. According to the law, according to the government, I am defacing public property by painting on the poles or the telephone boxes or the bus stops. So, and sometimes, again, it's not black and white. Sometimes there is art there is poetry in slang and there is art in vandalism. Sometimes like street art or graffiti emerged as a medium of expression for the downtrodden because they don't have any avenue. They can't do paid features in Times of India. So their only option is take a spray can and spray something on the wall. So we have to always keep, I would say, democracy and diversity in mind, because you can have the most aesthetic Garden of Eden or the most aesthetic city. Gandhinagar is one of the greenest cities in the world, possibly. But nobody wants to live there. You have not made it friendly for even though there are colleges, it's not friendly for the youth. In many ways, it's not that friendly for women to walk out, etc., etc. So, and sometimes it's good to be humble as well, that just control the things you can control and build the community, and that will take care of things. You know, people often do this graffiti because the city is absolutely horrible, or they are struggling to put food on the table, or many things, you know, or and yes, sometimes things do get damaged. But again, I'd like to point out, on my street, more than any of my neighbors, okay, people don't walk around burning trees or cutting electric wires. Although I call this anarchist urbanism, it is constructive anarchism, and people just don't go around, stabbing people with a knife, So have faith in the individual, have faith in humanity, in good faith, as they say. My biggest enemy on my street has been the municipality. Whatever artwork I have done, they have been the ones to erase it, not some 17-year-old who is drunk on whiskey or something. The municipality removes the artwork on central divider because it is the SOP. कि हर साल आके white दिवाली के वक्त white paint मार दो उसको. They can't see that there is an art already there, or they are the ones cutting the trees all the time, or the wild shrubs that are growing.
Okay, one question from Trishant. Your voice is on, you're on mute. No, you're not audible.
Hello.
Yes.
Am I audible? Yes, I just wanted to add on to a point while Suhrd was speaking, answering to Zenobia Siddiqui's question about migrants on pedestrian footpaths for living in petty business. Many of the times, it's the migrant laborers who have built your bungalow or your building, and in many cases, they are not given proper accommodation, which is a proper shelter, which is why they end up encroaching a lot of public walking spaces. And we could only probably assist them, aid them from our side in giving them proper accommodation while they are building a building for you or making a house for you. Proper long-term sustenance can be given. That could be a solution to avoid encroachments on the footpaths at least. This is when the contractors and everybody will actually have to take this up to help the environment in a way.
So this is actually a very tricky and unfortunately slightly longer to answer. Definitely what Trishant has said is absolutely correct. But even when you try to solve a problem of, people there are a lot of people under the flyover, in tarpaulin or whatever, right? Even when you try to solve the problem, people end up creating more problems. Like they create a problem worse than what used to exist. What happens is they create night shelters, okay? Or they create Awas Yojana houses. You have to understand, why do the migrants live on the footpath or under the flyover? Why do they not stay in their, they are not homeless. They are not homeless. They have a house in their village. Pakka ghar bhi hai unka village mein often. But why are they under the flyover, under a tarpaulin or whatever, or under a mosquito net? Until you understand that, any solution you do will be waste of taxpayer money. So again, I can give example of my hometown. Awas Yojana house built. Now what happens is, land value is most precious in downtown, the real estate value, okay, where the riverfront is going to be and 5-star hotels and all those things. And as you go towards the outer end of the city, land value decreases, okay. But for the migrant person, the ability to earn the maximum money is in the center of the city. So you see, there's this ironical, juxtaposition here, that when you build your Awas Yojana house, you build the houses at the edge of the city, and you don't have a tram system or a bus system. You have made highways for SUVs, where there is no shade even for them to ride a cycle or a cycle rickshaw in Gujarat's 48°C climate or under absolute bonkers rain. So
Very valid. Your thought process is very
Right.
valid.
So you need night, and then they build night shelters, rain baseras. They are also at the edge of the city. So there are actually crews of BMC who pick them up from the center of the city and dump them at the night shelter. And the night shelter they don't want to live in, because the night shelter often is just for destitutes and drug addicts, and sort of people with a criminal bent of mind, or people who have been absolutely abandoned and left on their own. But the migrants who are actually on the footpath are families. So your night shelters can't just be Purush Vibhag and Mahila Vibhag. There needs to be a family night shelter. It needs to be where people stay. Dharavi is Dharavi because it is next to the skyscraper, and both of them benefit economically. So there is this concept in urbanism called mixed income, mixed use neighborhoods. A walkable neighborhood is no good if your janitor or your security guard has to travel 1 hour just to reach your walkable neighborhood. So the great thing about Pune or Mumbai or this model of urbanism is most of the areas, even the poshest areas where Adar Poonawala stays, Koregaon Park, Bajaj and Adar Poonawala stays, उन्हीं के बाजू में there's a slum. उन्हीं के बाजू में, and they have been given their spot, and initially they may have been obviously informal, but slowly through political representatives and respecting democracy, diversity, incrementalism, they have been formalized. And Awas Yojana mein the in situ upgradation happens in Pune rather than building new apartment blocks in the outskirts of the city. ये लोग क्या करते? They get the house, they rent the house to somebody else so that they get more money, and they go live under the flyover. घर मिलने के बावजूद they go live under the flyover. So they are not homeless. They are economically aspirational.
Another question here. Don't all municipal permissions require for any high-rise building to build a lower income housing close to them to address the issues of the so-called security or the janitors and all? Isn't that a part of the rules?
I don't think so. Maybe there may be a couple of examples somewhere, but if I would have heard about this, and I follow a lot of the urbanism topics on Instagram and wherever, so somebody would have praised some city's model if this was the case. Ideally, yes, there should be a staff quarters. In fact, most of the government enclaves or even the military cantonments followed this practice, but private real estate developers, they don't have an incentive. So somewhere the law needs to kick in, that you need to have a staff quarters. Maybe in some places it may be followed, but 4,300 cities.
Yeah. I think there is some rule, but I don't know if it's not being followed, because there is an option where they can, if they do not want to put it in the same premise, they can put it within 3 square kilometers. But I'm not sure whether it is across the country or just in Hyderabad. I'm not too sure about it. Then another thing is, when municipalities are so rich, they have so much of money. So why are they not spending money on urban planning? I see a lot of municipal people traveling abroad to look at Singapore, to look at Malaysia for planning, and also technology. There's so much of technology that's coming in how to clean up water, how to. So how is it that when India is talking about bringing in a lot of, encouraging startups, at the same time, as you said, why? You were saying technology is moving very fast in India, but why not in the area of the municipalities?
Technology is moving even in municipalities, and municipalities are actually not that financially robust, if I were to put it that way. It depends on, but so there are some municipalities which are rock stars, like Pimpri Chinchwad is possibly the richest municipality, or the most profitable, not the richest, but the most profitable municipality. And it's a simple aspect that municipalities earn money through property tax. Now, if you have 12-lane roads instead of 4-lane roads, your grid or your negative space is more in a city. You don't develop a downtown, and you don't, because the streets are wide, nobody is driving slow enough to have a pani puri. Okay. And nobody is even driving a cycle or scooter because there's no canopy, and canopy hoga to bhi. On a small street, a canopy is worth something. On a 12-lane road, even if there's a 100-year-old tree, what good is it? It's not going to shade me. So what happens as a result is due to flyovers and 12-lane roads and car mania, Carmageddon, carnage, the city becomes, as I like to say it in Gujarati, gamdafication, like suburban sprawl, it's called in English, but I call it gamdafication. So Baroda, a city of 21 lakh, doesn't even feel like a city. Doesn't even feel like a city. The most happening area in Baroda to this day is the old city area.
So Gamda basically means village in Gujarati, just for our audiences to be clear on that.
Yes. So municipalities are actually in terms of Baroda, they have money, but they don't have profit. They just have revenue. So most of the revenue is going in maintenance operations, because the wider the road. Now I just showed you on street view, there was this 8-lane road. On top of it was a 6-lane highway for 3.5 kilometers. Now this is a classic example of things designed by people who don't have to clean them or maintain them. Who's going to maintain it? In 25 years, that concrete will start to crack. And think of the Safai Karmchari. You are not doubling the salary, salary of the Safai Karmchari, nor are you hiring double the staff, but you are building double, triple the roads and widening the lanes and building more lanes. So what is going to happen? Whatever income you are receiving, you are going to spend most of it in maintenance operations of cleaning the streets, and the more square kilometer of pipeline and electricity line, the more spread out your city is, it's just going to be exponentially difficult for you to maintain, and you'll end up with debt. You'll have to borrow from the private market through municipal bonds, etc., etc., etc. And then the last aspect, after all this, you will end up doing some fanciful mega project like 5,000 crore ka koi murti, or 5,500 crore ka Pune riverfront or Sabarmati riverfront. And where are you earning taxes from? Because you get taxes from shops. After property tax, your next income stream is shops and establishment and GST. If you are not building the city for the local shops and the local commerce and walkability and pedestrian area and all those things, where are you going? You are just going to end up with huge car showrooms and auto garages and petrol pumps and big malls. But what I showed on Jangli Maharaj Road at the start of the talk, you're not going to get that vibe. The sort of vibe you see in Connaught Place or in Khan Market. So Khan Market is basically an outdoor mall, which is walkable and commercial and all those things.
So why is it that cities like London or other cities across Europe or the US are able to do a certain amount of city planning, and why is it that we, or even Singapore or Malaysia, are able to plan, and why not we in India?
Multiple reasons. I mean, so one thing is, I often say, and this can be very controversial, architect planners are not urbanists. If you look at their track record in the past 70, 80 years, architect planners are terrorists. And there's a quote, Le Corbusier has killed more people than, not literally killed, but killed more people than Genghis Khan, Adolf Hitler, and Robert Oppenheimer combined. Because that model that Le Corbusier brought of modernist urban planning has basically entrenched itself so deep that it has turned into the architect builder politician nexus, and inflated egos, and like, oh, we are the gods of all that we survey, and there is no latent talent in the actual citizens of the city. The tribal people don't know any art, they cannot beautify the flyover pillars, and a non-architect like a product designer or a fashion designer cannot, it's just assumed that they cannot, or anybody who has ever set up furniture in their house just cannot arrange furniture on the street. So that is one thing. Second thing is, it's good to have constraints. Mumbai being an island, Pune being a hilly terrain, Singapore again being an island. When you have constraints, you become creative and slightly better. I wonder if Mumbai, Pune was on flat terrain like Gujarat, they would have had the same problem.
I have a question. When you said Lee Corbusier, Chandigarh, they say, is a beautiful city. He was an architect. He did a beautiful place. What do you mean he was a terrorist?
So again, it comes back to it's a beautiful city, but do people want to live there? Is it an economic powerhouse? Are people migrating to Noida, Gurgaon, or are people just like taking the next bus and train to Chandigarh? And what has actually happened, if you actually go to Google Earth, and I'll not show it, but the planned area of, in fact, there was this Supreme Court ruling recently to preserve the planned area of Corbusier, which is the center of the city. A city should be dense in the center. It's called downtown, Manhattan, Connaught Circle. It should be dense at the center, and then it should fray towards the outer edges.
Absolutely. Atlanta is one such city. Atlanta is one such city. Absolutely. When I've been to Atlanta, the city in the center is dense. It's the downtown. And then you go, and it takes only 15 minutes, 20 minutes to go to any suburb. And when you go there, you'll think you're in a forest.
Yeah, and no, that's the cities and humans have co-evolved for 7,000 years. And the model of urban planning, so that's actually one of the things. Le Corbusier did not invent urbanism. Harappa was a smart city, Mohenjo-daro was a smart city, Rome, Babylon. There are countless examples of great cities being built 7,000 years ago. And did they have pedigreed or degreed architects? You know? Did they have software? They built the Giza pyramids or whatever, but did they have like software and factories and all the world's whatever?
When you are questioning Corbusier, what I understand is that you're saying it hasn't taken into consideration economy, the street dwellers, the shops, and the future growth of the city. Is that what you're saying?
Environment. Yes.
Basically the living experience of a city. They have approached the whole city with a very horse blinder sort of narrow-minded thing that, oh, it's just brick, mortar, cement. But what makes cities thrive is the people and the interactions, and that is where me being possibly a user experience designer, I sort of intuitively possibly know things many architect students either don't know or are not being taught correctly. And just I was saying, if you look at Gandhinagar or Chandigarh on the Google Earth, it is dense in the outer rim, because that is where the organic natural growth of the tin shacks and the migrant workers and all those things have happened. And where it was planned कि here यहाँ पे government के residences होंगे, यहाँ पे business area होगा, and these were again not mixed income, mixed use, they were almost single use zone, like one dedicated area purely residential. तो अब मुझे दही का पैकेट लेना हो तो मैं क्या करूंगा? That is why gift, मैं लिख के देता हूँ, gift is going to fail, Dholera is going to fail.
Trishant, do you have any further questions? There's no more questions in this.
Yes, ma'am, I'm good. That was really amazing. I mean,
yeah.
Came to know a lot of details about how urban planning is. I'd like to add that a lot of good work towards sustainable architecture is being done in places like Auroville, and Suhrd also has those sort of connections into he does promote a lot of sustainable architecture. Uh, just the blind goal of development is what kind of upsets the ecological balance, because it's not considered in the picture at all. The ecology is not considered in the picture at all. We are living in a very human-centered world. And for the betterment of a human being, you need to take nature, trees, animals, everything into equal consideration while planning a city or any place with a lot of interaction amongst beings.
So
Suhrd, please.
just one line I'd like to add. We should even question again. I mentioned these examples of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Do you even need a planner? Because I've seen it in action in Pimpri-Chinchwad or Pune. As I said, Pimpri-Chinchwad was a Sindhi partition refugee camp. It went from some 25,000 to 25 lakh in a span of 6 decades. It is India's most profitable municipality.
Okay.
Now, and now they are planning it. Now they are planning it.
This is one thing. The government has a body called the National Green Tribunal, which is supposed to set guidelines for ecological balance, for environment protection. And the government itself doesn't take its own body seriously. Its own body, which is supposed to take care of the environment, is not taken seriously. What do you have to say on this, Suhrd?
So, I mean,
The NGT.
we at the Pune riverfront protest thing, we have an NGT stay order until July 31st because they are cutting like 7,000 trees or something for the riverfront of the most pristine quality, Sahyadri Mountains and all those things. So I don't have a the government is ultimately made of the people, and until we can self-empower 43 crore people, if you don't know that you can remove a paver block outside your house and put something there, why do you have such high expectations from
The government
bodies? As I said, they are not from some Harvard or something. They have also graduated from some ordinary college from here, and the world is being built by people no better educated than you and I, or better qualified than you and I. So ultimately, NGT, again, the more centralized you become, how do you manage? How can one NGT manage 143 crore people?
True.
Whatever is happening in whatever corner of the country, there has to be some element of self-initiative and decentralization that has to come up. And that is what builds the pressure on the municipality. So again, I can only give an example of there are so many ecologists and so many activists, and there's just somebody annoying the municipality in Pune for every single tree. Any tree that gets koi letter bhejta hai, somebody is doing something, koi tweet karta hai. It's and that
A
builds
lot
the
of active participation from the civilians in the city of Pune is what has been noticed.
And to do that, you need better streets, and just start with yourself and expand outward. When you have streets, as I said, how do you get women and kids onto the street? How do you get them to like start thinking or looking at things or taking selfies or whatever, doing TikTok dance reels or whatever? Build a beautiful street, rest will follow. Biodiversity will follow, government investment, cleaning, all things will follow. Community will become stronger, and do the next smallest possible thing and do it immediately. Don't wait for permission. So that's the step. Humbly observe, do the next smallest possible thing, do it immediately, do it right now, as soon as possible, and repeat.
Thank you so much. That was really insightful, very amazing. I hope everyone who attended today, kind of spread the word, share this webinar with everybody else to see these small steps one individual can take right outside their homes or along with their neighbors, form these small communities, WhatsApp groups where your focus is just one thing, creating an ecological balance. Use all the scraps around you, put them to good use, make toys for kids outside, benches for kids outside. That's really amazing. Thank you so much, Suhrd. That was a wonderful session.
Thank you to everyone listening so patiently all this time and for your questions.
Have a great day. I'll just send you a breakout room link, Suhrd. And ma'am, we'll just join into the breakout room. Thank you to all our participants. Please do not forget to join us on our website. Subscribe to WishwaTalks. Please, if you missed any part of the session, you can go to YouTube and check out the whole recording, the whole uncut version of it. We'll also be sending you the link for the recording in your feedback forms. Thank you. Yes, Suhrd, please join into the breakout room link that you're seeing on the screen.
Yeah, I'll just do it. Just a second.